talking about mineral resources. And in the end, all of this ultimately comes down to money. As you saw, our profits versus our cost of mining. And so how we get access to the minerals is through a process called mining. If we look here at this picture, every American born is going to need 3.02 million pounds of minerals, every American born, metals and fuels in their lifetime. And that's because you use it to grow your foods, we use it in our electronics, the computer you have, the car you use. All of these require minerals. And so you're in contact with minerals every day of your life, and we have a high consumption rate, and so we're using a lot of minerals. So what is mining? So in your notes now, you're going to kind of fill in the blanks as we move along. So mining is extracting ore or minerals from the ground. And ore is a natural material with a high concentration of economically valuable minerals that can be mined for a profit. And again, when we're talking about mining, we are talking about profit, okay? That is the end goal here. So they are pulling these minerals out in an ore and ultimately hoping to achieve a high profit. Behind this image here, you can kind of see these contours. I'm going to talk about that in a little bit, this different type of mining. This is called contour mining, where there are literally contours within a hillside. So these are some pictures of different mines across the globe, and let's get into the different types of mining. So the first type that we're going to talk about is surface mining. Surface mining techniques are when mineral ores are near the surface. And so we can just kind of think about it as scraping them away. So we have three different types that we're going to talk about: strip mining, open pit mining, and mountaintop removal. Most of them are exactly the way they sound. So strip mining is a way where we strip off the land, sometimes in contours like that earlier picture I showed you. So we have local companies that do this for slate or for limestone. And so areas over a flat terrain, we just pull away the top layers of earth in large strips. Contour mining is on a hillside, and that is the image I had kind of showed you in the beginning. So different types of mining there, strip mining, two different types. All right, so how do we get that? And so we're going to use a large piece of equipment called a bucket wheel excavator. Kind of reminds me of something out of Star Wars. But it's a large piece of heavy machinery used in surface mining. The primary function is to remove thousands of tons of earth over a day. So let's watch a video on that here.
A giant looms over Western Germany, standing about as tall as London's Big Ben Tower. This hungry titan can chew up hundreds of thousands of tons of earth a day. This colossus isn't out of fantasy or science fiction. It's the Bagger 293, the biggest bucket excavator on the planet.
The Bagger 293 is a bucket wheel excavator, or a BWE. BWEs are some of the largest terrestrial vehicles in the world. Think of them like small cities with buzzsaws attached to them. And the Bagger 293 is the biggest of all of them.
It was entered into the Guinness Book of Records as the largest terrestrial vehicle on the planet.
Produced by German firm Tackraft, this record-holding gargantuan weighs over 14,000 tons. Yet, incredibly, leaves tracks no deeper than a human footprint. Baggers are the master of one skill: mining lignite coal, which they perform like no other.
The Bagger 293 is a beast. This thing can move over 200,000 tons a day of earth. That's 2,500 kilograms of material every second. And so just the vastness and the scale is absolutely incredible.
BWEs are the key to keeping coal plants fed and running. Without them, entire nations would go dark. Lignite coal, also called brown coal, is the type used in many of these plants. And it is often buried under tons and tons of overburden, such as dirt and rocks. So we need extremely large and powerful machines to remove that overburden.
All right, so what you heard him say there is overburden. And overburden is exactly what it's here. It's just a surface material covering the ore that they're trying to mine. Okay, so that bucket wheel excavator is a beast, and its main job is just to remove dirt. All right, so another type of surface mining is called open pit mining, and you can see that here with a large hole in the ground, and how they are going down layer by layer to usually mine coal or copper. The picture on the right here is of a quarry, and we have a lot of quarries here in Pennsylvania because of our limestone. So there's a lot of cement quarries and slate quarries. And so the limestone is used in the making of cement. And so they dig that out of the ground and form a large, big hole. That's called a quarry. All right, so let's watch a video here of this.
We're in a part of Siberia even the Siberians consider remote.
That right there is the Mir mine. It is the second biggest hole on the planet. It goes down about 525 meters. That's 5 football fields deep, and is about a kilometer wide.
For close to half a century, Mir was Russia's largest diamond mine, providing for the city on its edge. Its resources exhausted, the work now has to happen 2 hours of tundra away.
The Dubinsky mine is a relatively young thing. They've been mining it for about 13 years.
The mines are owned by a company called Alrosa, and soon this one will be even bigger than the Mir.
How much do you think the diamonds that you've gotten out of this quarry are worth?
On average, we mine about $500 million a year.
A couple miles down the road, a sense of scale.
Just to put things in perspective, that's the platform we were just at, and that right there is a 100-meter drop down to where we are, which is only half the depth of this mine.
Some work happens even deeper than that. This mine is 1,000 meters deep and one of the world's richest.
Along 25 miles of tunnels, 500 men toil away.
It may not look like much, but that wall right there is absolutely full of diamonds. And slowly but surely, they're chipping away at it. Just the last 5-10 minutes, we've moved forward about 10 feet.
At Diamond Frontier TV, the mayor is answering questions. There's concern about the quality of life. Alrosa owns almost everything here, TV station included. The fear is going public will bring change.
We're used to living under the company's protection. If the company goes into private hands, I don't think those people are going to be interested in the social side of things.
For years, Alrosa's very existence was a state secret. It's about to become the world's largest publicly traded diamond producer. Brian Chilcote, Bloomberg, in Siberia.
All right, so you're able to see the large mining pit there, the open pit mining. So I have another, this is the same mine, but it has a really wild phenomena that it can actually bring down a plane. So let's check this out.
The Russian town of Mirny is home to one of the most productive diamond mines in the country that also happens to be one of the biggest man-made holes in the world. After World War II, the Soviet Union was in need of money to help it rebuild. In 1955, they deployed a huge team of geologists to look for kimberlite fragments and indicator minerals that hint at the presence of diamonds. 3 geologists hit the mother lode in the Siberian wilderness, 5,000 miles east of Moscow. Stalin was so grateful that he awarded one of the geologists the Lenin Prize, one of Russia's top honors. In 1957, construction began on the open-pit Mirny diamond mine, also known as the Mir Mine. This was no small task. The average winter temperature in the area is -40 degrees Fahrenheit, cold enough to freeze oil and shatter car tires, and creating a thick layer of permafrost that covered the ground. The average winter lasts for 7 months. During the brief periods that the permafrost melts, it forms a slush just as treacherous for construction. The crew had to use jet engines to thaw the ground and explosives to break through the permafrost. 3 years later, the mine was operational. It had grown to an astounding 1,722 feet deep and over half a mile wide, making it the second largest excavated hole in the world, after the Bingham Canyon copper mine in Utah. Miners extracted 10 million carats of diamonds per year during the 1960s. Nearly a quarter of those were considered gem quality. The largest gems were the size of golf balls, including the 130.85 carat Olonco diamond, which was valued at close to $430,000. Even larger was the unsold 342.57 carat, the 26th Congress of the Communist Party of the Soviet Union yellow diamond, the largest ever found in the country. All told, the mine produced $13 billion worth of diamonds, a number so impressive that diamond distributors like De Beers grew suspicious. If Mirny Mine kept it up, the company would have trouble maintaining control over diamond prices. Representatives from De Beers asked to inspect the mine in 1970. Russia stalled for 6 years. Even after the request was granted, the Russians created so many delays upon the inspector's arrival in Moscow that their visas were nearly expired by the time they got to the mine. De Beers reps only had 20 minutes for their inspection. When the Soviet Union fell, local companies took over the operation of the mine. It was closed suddenly in 2004 due to flooding and the fact that trying to mine any deeper would be too dangerous. The dangers of the mine extended into the sky as well. Warm air from the mine meeting cold air from the surface created a vortex that was so strong it could pull down small aircraft and helicopters. Several incidents of aircraft being sucked downward were reported. Luckily, none of them crashed. In response, the airspace above the mine was restricted. Mining was halted, but underground research into diamonds continued. Then, in 2010, the Russian company AB Elise declared its intention to build a futuristic solar-powered domed city inside the mine that would house over 10,000 residents. No actual plans followed the announcement. Until Mirny Mine finds a new life as a city of the future, it will be remembered for having produced more than half of the diamonds in the world, giving Mother Russia the means to return to its former glory.
All right, so when we look at that, right, so that mine is so big that it creates this vortex where the warm and cold air are interacting and pulling small aircraft out of the air. So I just did a quick search, and it says that the Mir Mine was supposed to reopen in 2024, but I couldn't find any other more recent data to indicate if the mine actually opened again or if it stayed closed. So I don't know, but that by far was the most productive diamond mine that we have seen as of yet. All right. So again, open pit mining is a type of surface mining. Even though they're going deeper and deeper into the earth, it is a type of surface mine. The third type of surface mining is mountaintop removal, and this is exactly like it says. They're removing tops of mountains, so trees are cleared, the topsoil is removed, and the rock is ultimately blasted away to expose the resource. The second type of mining, so we did surface mining, and now we're into placer mining or dredging. And so this has to deal with water. So they're removing the sediments from water to ultimately find gold, usually, or some other mineral that might be floating based on density, sinking down into the sediment. So let's watch this.
All right. Welcome back, everyone. You ready for another deep dive?
Always ready to dig in.
Yeah, I see what you did there. Today we're talking placer gold mining.
That's right. We're going to unearth all the basics, what those placer deposits are, how they form.
And of course, the good stuff. How to get that gold.
Exactly. From the simple tools to the more complex ones.
We'll cover it all. When I think of placer gold, I think of those classic images of prospectors panning in a stream. It just seems so simple.
Well, in a way it is. The principle behind it is pretty basic. Placer deposits form when gold erodes from its original source, usually in veins of rock.
Right, those hard rock deposits.
Exactly. And because gold is heavy, it gets carried by water and gravity and settles in these new places like riverbeds, streams, even beaches sometimes.
Like nature concentrates it for you.
Exactly. So it's sort of pre-sorted in a way compared to, digging into a mountain.
So someone interested in getting started with placer mining, what tools do they need?
Well, the gold pan is the most iconic and the most basic. And honestly, it's still incredibly effective. You're basically using the pan to mimic that natural process of gravity separation.
So swirling the water and gravel around in the pan, the lighter stuff washes away.
And the heavy gold sinks to the bottom. It's pretty cool to see it in action.
Yeah, you get that little glimmer at the bottom of the pan. What if I want to process more material, though?
Yeah.
Step things up from the pan.
A sluice box is the next step. Imagine a longer, slightly angled trough with riffles, those ridges on the bottom.
They help trap the gold.
Exactly. You feed the gravel in at the top with water, and the gold gets caught by the riffles as the lighter stuff washes over them.
So you're basically creating a mini artificial river.
That's a great way to put it. And then you can scale up even further. We're talking dredges.
Dredges, I've seen pictures, these huge machines, right?
They can be pretty big. Essentially, they're like a powerful vacuum cleaner on a boat that sucks up gravel from the riverbed.
So you're processing massive amounts of material.
Exactly. And that's key because, let's be honest. Finding gold is great, but
we want to make it profitable.
Right. That's where it gets tricky, especially nowadays. See, many of those easy to find high concentration surface deposits are already
It's over. Yeah.
Exactly. So modern miners need to be efficient. You got to process a lot more material to make a profit.
So it's not just about finding gold. It's about finding it in enough quantity to make it worthwhile.
Absolutely. You've got labor costs, fuel, equipment maintenance, permits, it all adds up.
And then there's the environmental factors to consider too, right?
Oh, absolutely. It's very much dependent on the natural environment. Water is a big one, especially for techniques like hydraulicking.
That's where you use jets of water to break up the gravel.
Exactly. But you need a reliable and strong water source. And you need enough pressure to do the job.
I imagine a drought could really throw a wrench in the works.
Oh, absolutely. I remember visiting a mine in California that had to shut down completely due to a drought. They simply couldn't operate without enough water.
Wow, so Mother Nature can be a tough partner.
She can. And then there's the terrain itself. A steep mountain stream is going to pose different challenges than a gently sloping riverbed.
So the methods you use might have to adapt to the lay of the land.
Precisely. Right. There's also the overburden, all the material on top of the gold-bearing gravel.
So like digging through layers of dirt to get to the good stuff.
Exactly. And removing that overburden adds to your costs. Sometimes it's just not economical if it's too thick.
So you've got to choose your mining location very carefully. It sounds like placer mining is this fascinating blend of understanding the environment.
Oh, for sure. And having the right tools and techniques, of course.
And then making it all work efficiently to, hopefully make a profit.
That's the goal. But even with all of that, it's a challenge these days, especially with the declining gold concentrations in many easily accessible areas.
That makes you wonder, what's the future of placer mining then?
Yeah, it's a really good question. Will new technologies emerge to make it more efficient? Will we find new ways to discover those hidden placer deposits?
It's something to think about. It seems like the gold rush isn't over, it's just evolving.
And who knows what the future holds?
Maybe some of our listeners will be leading the way.
All right, guys, so that is an example of placer mining. So when we think about the old school panning for gold, removing those gold deposits because they're heavy, so based on their density, they sink and form into that sediment. And so by digging up some of that sediment, you're able to find those
all right.
Pieces.
Welcome back.
Okay. So that is placer mining or dredging, which is removing that sediment from water. The third type of mining is subsurface mining, and this is where ore deposits are 50 meters or more below the surface. And so if we look here, these are, when I always think of mining, this is kind of what I think about, like these old tracks with, carts and moving ore through the mines. And so when we look at it, we've got salt mines. And so let's take a look at this.
The messy sidewalks and roads we've seen this week are getting a healthy dose of salt. But where does it all come from? Ed Curran takes us on a very deep underground visit beneath one of the Great Lakes for a rare look at a salt mine in this original report.
In Cleveland, in the shadow of downtown, a mountain of salt above Cargill's sprawling mine, located under Lake Erie. The double-decker elevator carries equipment and miners and us.
We're going to go down at about 500 feet a minute.
And how far down are we going?
1,800 feet.
Wow. For Superintendent John Gruber, it's off to the salt mine every morning.
We're going to be about 4 minutes heading down.
We're going deeper than Willis Tower is tall, and that includes the antennas.
Watch your step.
Safety is a top concern. We carry emergency breathing equipment just in case. Now driving away from the shaft and under Lake Erie. We'll drive 4 miles under the lake. The mine is huge. The temperature is steady.
Pretty much right around 75 degrees.
The salt is 300 million years old. The mine just over 50. The main tunnels are 20 feet high and 45 feet wide. Heavy equipment comes down in pieces and is assembled down here. It never goes back up. How much salt do you pull out of this mine every year?
We're usually between 3 to 4 million.
Mining that many tons is a blast. This trailer's hauling ammonium nitrate. Mixed with fuel oil, it creates an explosive called ANFO. The walls are prepared by drilling holes 20 feet deep. These 2-inch diameter ones will be packed with ANFO. Every afternoon, it's showtime. After the blasting's done, this is what you get. A huge pile of salt ready to be scooped up and processed. The salt boulders are picked up and broken up. Then they take a 3.5-mile conveyor ride to the screening plant where they become the rock salt we use. Salt is in the air. You can see it, you can taste it. This elevator lifts salt to the surface about 20 tons, a truckload every 90 seconds. Later, when it's spread on the roads, it's activated by a thin layer of water on the ice and snow. Salt prevents ice formation, promotes melting by lowering the freezing point of water from 32 degrees to as low as -6. And it takes a lot of salt to clean up after this week's...
All right, so that was out of Chicago, but still the same thing holds true. So salt is mined in your mineral ID labs. You're actually looking at something that they're mining. I'm not going to tell you what it is yet, but you might figure that out as you get through your mineral ID lab tomorrow. Tomorrow, Wednesday, I think, yeah. So if we move through this, this is another type of subsurface mine. If you heard him correctly, they went down 4 miles down into the ground. I might be a little claustrophobic for that, I don't know. All right, so moving on, we've got the undersea mining, and this is the last and final type of mining that we're going to talk about here. And this is exactly what it says. The minerals are mined from the ocean floor. And so usually we have some stationary vessel, and they have some type of roving apparatus, and they're able to mine the ore from the ocean floor. So let's look at this all about Norway.
Deep inside this zone, between Norway and Greenland, the seabed contains some of the most valuable minerals on the planet. From cobalt to rare earths, it holds the raw materials needed to drive multi-billion-dollar industries such as electric vehicles, wind turbines, and other clean technologies. Currently, land-based supplies of these lucrative resources are dominated by China, giving sites like this massive geopolitical significance. But extracting such reserves from the deep sea is both a huge engineering challenge and highly controversial, with critics arguing drilling here will cause irreparable damage to the largest ecosystem in the world. So here's how Norway is racing to tap into billions of dollars worth of rare minerals, and why the US is intently watching developments. This remote operating vehicle, or ROV, is around 6,500 feet below the surface in an area of largely unexplored ocean.
This ROV is going down to the sea mountain and drilling a core.
It's one tool being used to try and map out and analyze Norway's vast underwater reserves.
So this is automatic and it can drill up to 100 sites before it needs to go up to the surface again.
Loki Marine Minerals is one of several companies working with Norway to establish how it could mine here in the future.
The main challenge at the moment is that we do need more knowledge. We're going to also include private companies in the work. So by opening, we're also inviting them in so that we can do this together.
To better understand how it could mine its deep sea resources, the country has opened up an area roughly the size of Nevada, close to the Arctic archipelago of Svalbard. Here, thousands of feet below the surface, minerals are found in two forms. Massive sulfide deposits created by magma heating seawater below the seabed, which then rises up, depositing minerals on the ocean floor. And in manganese crust, which is formed when metallic compounds dissolved in seawater adhere to the sides of sea mountains. Initial surveys of this area estimate there are 38 million tons of copper and 45 million tons of zinc contained within the sulfides, in addition to millions of tons of cobalt and hundreds of thousands of other materials in the manganese crust. One estimate puts the potential value of Norway's minerals at around $92 billion. But these precious resources sit right next to protected marine areas. Companies in Norway are developing technology they hope will balance the challenge of extracting these minerals with environmental risks.
We are looking at small robots that are scraping off the crust and vacuum cleaning all material that we're scraping off. If you think about a robot is cleaning a swimming pool on the sides, all the crust will be pumped up to a vessel at the sea level.
But critics fear smoke plumes, made up of the mud and debris disturbed by the process, could damage fragile deep-sea ecosystems.
We've tried to make the environmental impact as low as possible, but you cannot extract anything from the earth without making an impact.
But despite these concerns, the UN allows any coastal state the rights to the resources on and under the seabed within its continental margin. This generally extends to around 200 nautical miles. Countries can apply to extend this territorial limit. In 2009, Norway gained an additional 90,000 square miles, and in 2024, passed a controversial bill seeking to explore part of it for deep-sea mining activities.
First of all, it's important to say that what the Parliament has opened for now is to explore, map and gather more knowledge.
Norway says environmental assessments and parliamentary approval must be in place before mining begins. Closely monitoring the developments in Norway is the US, which has one of the largest continental shelves in the world.
And that's not just because of the American mainland. You've got places like Alaska, Hawaii, and smaller island places like Guam and American Samoa, which really give the US a very large continental shelf and a lot of ocean waters that it can exploit.
But unlike Norway, US legislators have been slower to develop plans to extract deep-sea minerals. While countries like China and private companies are vying for lucrative contracts to mine beyond their own continental shelf, most of the attention has focused on the Clarion-Clipperton Zone, or CCZ, positioned south of Hawaii. Unlike Norway's resources, the minerals in this area are found inside nodules, small rocks loosely scattered on the seafloor. It is believed there's more nickel, cobalt, and manganese here than in all on-land deposits. But legislative hurdles stand in the way of actually mining them. First, permission from the ISA, a UN body, must be granted. And so far, it's not handed out any exploitation contracts, although it has granted some exploration permissions.
China has access to 5 exploration sites, while the US doesn't have access to any. The US hasn't ratified the UN Law of the Sea. That means it's not party to the ISA, and that means it can't actually legally gain exploration or exploitation contracts for deep sea mining in international waters. At the moment, the main option for it is to open up its own continental shelf.
As the US scrambles to catch up on what many say is the ticket to a green future, all eyes remain focused on Norway's pioneering efforts.
I think it has also been important for us to talk honest about it, to say that we see the need for these minerals, but to also say that we don't know everything. But if we are ever gonna continue and be able to extract seabed minerals in a sustainable way, we have to start somewhere. We need more knowledge, and we need to invite private actors to play a part in it.
But legislative hurdles, environmental factors, and profitability all leave this nascent industry with huge question marks over its long-term viability. Until there are clearer answers, these zones crammed with billions of dollars worth of critical minerals may be left untapped.
The irony is that it could help society become greener, but remains hugely controversial because of the harm it could do to the rest of the environment.
So that brings up a lot of questions. We need these minerals to survive. There's a lot of money involved with minerals. There's also environmental damage that can occur. There are jobs and employment, technology. So it really brings a lot of questions. So what you're going to do now is we're going to get into environmental hazards of mining later. And so right now on Schoology, there should be a posting for you that you should take. So use your notes and good luck.